And now, our feature presentation.
I'm literally just going to order some food real quick for dinner. That is exactly what I am doing. I just have to bring up the number and put in the call real quick. It'll be super quick. Because today was my day off, and I just want to have a nice antipasta salad. That's what I want.
Sound good. I think we have ravioli for dinner.
Ooh, ravioli. Oh, hell yeah. Like, I didn't even stop the recording either. It's going.
Leave this in. Leave it in. Everybody will know what you ordered for dinner.
I'll put it at the beginning. Hi, can I place an order? Could I order one antipasta salad?
Okay,
Ranch. Nope, that's it. All right. Oh, perfect. Okay, I'll see you in 15. All right, bye. Antipasta salad for me. Antipasta salad for me.
You gotta leave that in.
Hello, welcome to another episode of It Sure Is a Podcast. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, Eric. You're sitting over there looking submissive and breedable as always. You weren't ready for that, were you?
I know I was.
Like a few weeks off and I just stroll into your house and tell you
Did
look
you just
submissive.
say submissive and breedable?
Submissive and breedable, yes.
I'm putting that on my resume.
Able to do complex maths, manual labor, and submissive and breedable.
I'm easy on the eyes, too. If you can get past the crow's feet.
Get past the crow's feet, and then I ain't that bad.
I mean, my beer belly's coming back. I don't really have a lot of muscle. And so I'm like, the only thing I'm banking on for old age good looks is like the weathered look a little bit.
Yes, people go for the weathered look. They really do.
It's my last chance.
And when the grays start coming in...
They're coming in.
Yeah, it looks like you have experience, but if it's a salt and pepper look, you also look young. Yeah, distinguished, young at heart. As I'm sitting over here drinking a... I don't even know how to pronounce this. Michelob Ultra? Michelob.
Magellan?
Miguel. Yeah, it's a...
Hello, my name is Miguel.
It's a low-carb beer that, I can sneak one in every so often.
I gotta say, I am truly, I know we've talked on this before, but I am really impressed by you and your fitness and your weight loss journey.
I ran today and my nipples have chafed. Like, there's scabs all over my nipples. It's like when you start sweating and it gets down like to the chest area.
You just gotta start running shirtless now, man.
Well, I'm not ready for shirtless yet, but I need a sports bra. Actually, I did order packs of nipple tape, which it is a thing that there's just these Band-Aid things you put over your nipples because it's a
every woman who
thing.
listens to us, so like the one who listens to us is like, boy, don't you tell me about nipple tape.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel kind of weird because I got this, I got the pack of it and I put it on. I'm sitting here, I'm wearing, pasties. I'm wearing tassels right now.
Hey, I mean, my man boobs have come back big enough. I'll put tassels on and run shirtless. Everybody's just going to look at me like, what? I'll be like, yeah, you wish you could have it.
And you're running by and you're like, it's Pride! And they're like, no, that was June! And then you scream like, Pride's every day! And then you just run off into the streets. Mm-hmm. That's a good way to look at it. So, jumping off of the point of nipple tape, obviously by the wonderful artwork you see on all the, the little thumbnails.
I mentioned this to him before the episode, but that is like one of my favorites so far.
Oh my gosh. Marza K absolutely kills it with all the artwork she does. And at first I was like, I want to promote her and get her stuff out there so people can pick that up. Like, oh my gosh, that's good. I can commission her to do stuff. But no one has, and I'm getting to the point. I'm like, you know what? No, this is my little pocket artist. She
actively tell people to not.
I'm gonna start like being like, oh, I don't know who made that. I won't say it's me, but I'm like, my little pocket artist that I just keep hidden away. It's kind of like back in ancient times, how artists were treated. Artists weren't necessarily what they are today, where they're starving all the time and making weird stuff, and people look down upon them. Back in Renaissance era and stuff like that, artists were kind of kept around as pets, and they just would give them a house, and they're just like,
yeah,
go make some cool stuff.
A patron would sponsor them.
Yes.
Because back then there was no entertainment, or not the plethora that we have today. So it was
exactly.
Like, okay, I want to look at something new and cool. Make me something.
And usually the artist would be like, anything specific? And they're like, no, I don't even know what art is.
One of my favorite ones, was it Michelangelo who did the Sistine Chapel?
You're telling me a cis teen made that chapel?
I mean, yes, because of the meme. That it's an old one, but I love it. It's it's a picture of him on his back on scaffolding, like painting it, and the captions like, they're like, Michelangelo, can you paint the ceiling? And it's like, Michelangelo, yeah, sure, I'll paint the ceiling. And then it's him, and he's like, gonna paint a bunch of dudes with their dicks in it, bro.
I also like how that was the standard of art, and it just has not changed over, you just see dick pictures everywhere, people drawing dicks and wieners on stuff as, like, graffiti.
I still love how everybody's like, you shouldn't, it's like, you can't show male nudity, that's not like this and that, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, well, first off, you show naked women all the time, so, moot point, but also, apparently they're not students of history, because Greek and Roman times, the male form was, like, that was the sex symbol back then. It wasn't women, symbol. It was like, look at my dong, and like everybody was like, ooh,
and the dongs weren't even impressive. It's just the fact that look at the dong.
Yeah, that was pretty much all it was. You seen all their statues? All these ripped 8-foot tall muscle dudes, and they got a wiener smaller than mine.
I also
and their statues. It's like, dang.
I also really enjoy how the pubes on those statues, like, they've been permed.
The loving
detail and the curls, and it's obnoxious. Like, it looking like Napoleon Dynamite's afro on this guy's balls. And I'm looking at it, and I'm like, dude, that is quite the exquisite specimen. But it never looks like that. Like, that looks permed. That looks clean. That looks sophisticated. Yeah, no.
Apparently they weren't into shaving back then.
No. But... Oh, definitely not. I tried to change the subject again, and then we got back onto the artist thing. About the pocket artist that I have in my repertoire.
Oh, but are we jumping into the topic?
Yeah, we're actually going to the topic now, because you can tell from the thumbnails.
Okay. Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Please stop! Spoiler alert!
There you go. You did the spoiler alert. We are going to be covering the entire short miniseries of Obi-Wan Kenobi. If you have any interest in watching it, obviously take the spoilers and there's the door, stupid. Get out.
I mean, it's kind of like the Bible when people talk about it. It's like, it's okay. We all know the ending. Like, it's about Obi-Wan Kenobi, so you should know the ending, but...
Right.
It's about the journey.
That's what I was going to say. It's more about the journey. And I pretty much halted the podcast so Eric could do his homework so we could talk about it, because I wanted to talk about it. I'm like, Eric, do your freaking homework.
I want you to know that I stayed up until like 11:30 last night to watch the final episode, because I was like ready for bed. I'm like, I'm so tired. Well, we've been working all day. I got to get to bed. And I laid down and I was like, oh, damn it.
You're like,
I was like, I had one left.
But, all right. Overall thoughts on it. Did you like it? Like the series, all of it together.
Yes. Overall, I will say I thought it was fantastic. I liked the mood they did with it, which was a little bit darker. They weren't afraid as much as they weren't. I think they went for a little bit more of a realist feel, as far as like. They went a little dark. They were about to torture a 10-year-old girl in one of the episodes, like full on.
Yeah, they really were.
I really like it. I had two big issues with it, and I'm sure we'll get into it more in the episodes. But one was, I didn't like the third sister Inquisitor. I thought
no one does.
I liked her as an actress. I actually thought she was a really good actress. I didn't like her storyline.
Okay.
Because I don't think what they had her portray made sense. In the end, I got what they were going for, but I thought I thought they were sending way too much of a mixed message.
Right. And we'll touch on that when we go through each episode, because what we're going to do is, for the people who don't really have an interest but you want to listen to this episode, I'm going to give you the synopsis of every single episode as we go through it. There's only 6. We'll be able to bang all this out in one episode.
He'll do the synopsis. We'll chat about it. We'll talk about it. Kind of give our viewpoints and stuff. The only other thing I can think of off the top of my head, it's me. I'm sure I'll find a lot more to gripe about. But
right.
The little kid they got to portray Luke, even though he was only in like one episode with any significance where he had to act.
Yeah.
I did not think they did a good job. Now, I don't know if it's the kid or if it was just how they wrote it, but I was kind of pretty underwhelmed, and I'm like, I'm okay if he dies. I mean, spoiler alert, it's Star Wars. It's Luke Skywalker. He doesn't die. We literally just got a movie about him dying, so it's not even about his actual death. But anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, so other than that, I liked it. I did.
All right, let's break down episode 1, part 1. Here's a synopsis. 10 years after Order 66, when most of the Jedi Order were killed, reclusive former Jedi Master Obi-Wan Kenobi is hiding in a cave on Tatooine under the alias Ben. He works at a meat factory and watches over a young Luke Skywalker, the son of his former apprentice turned enemy Anakin Skywalker, now living with his step-parents Owen and Beru Lars, despite Owen disliking Kenobi. Kenobi also lost his connection to the Force, cannot communicate with the Force ghost of his former deceased master Qui-Gon Jinn, and experiences nightmares from his past. Inquisitor's fifth brother and Reva, led by the Grand Inquisitor, find a Jedi named Nari on Tatooine. Reva tries to kill Nari, resulting in a commotion allowing him to escape. The Grand Inquisitor berates her impulsive behavior and obsession with finding Kenobi, widely believed to be dead, and orders her to stop focusing on Kenobi. Despite this, Reva hires bounty hunter Vect Nakru, Star Wars names are so stupid, and his gang to kidnap Princess Leia Organa from Alderaan to lure Kenobi. Nari tries to get help from Kenobi, but is rejected and later hanged in town. So Nari, that Jedi that escaped.
You never even learn his name in the show.
That was just so funny. Yeah, you never learn his name.
Oh, he was a throwaway character for sure.
Oh, yeah. He was just as a means to show how intense being a Jedi is during these times. Meanwhile, Kenobi agrees to rescue Leia after her adoptive father, Bail Organa, visits his home. Alright, so that's episode 1. Episode 1 kind of sets the scene for everything.
It was a little slow.
It was
I
slow.
also thought it was such a smooth telling of the story that I didn't actually mind it. I was like, all right, cool. They're introducing a lot. There was a little bit of action in the dude running away and whatnot, and it was so much info thrown at you, but in such a good way. I was like, I like it. Thumbs up on that.
Yeah, I thought they did excellent world building with one episode compared to Boba Fett. That took 5 episodes to just tell you that he hung out with Tusken Raiders.
Everybody hated Boba Fett.
Here's the thing. Boba Fett should have came out before Mandalorian only because Mandalorian came out swinging and Boba Fett came out like not even swinging, like a little fart in the wind, like a little.
I mean, Mandalorian kind of took over the show too.
Dude, yeah, and then it only got good when Mando showed up.
Yeah,
it wasn't bad. It just moved so slow. And I'm not expecting action every episode, but it was just like rehashing the same themes over and over again. And Kenobi, it's the opposite, where it's a quick tempo, quick pace, but it's giving you, the information you need, but it's taking that extra time.
I think you just hit the nail on the head. It doesn't have to be all action, but it's got to be that quick tempo. And right. I think they did well with this. Even when it was just dialogue and stuff, it's like, no, it's story heavy. So yes. You're invested and you're paying attention.
So and I found it funny that we've talked about this before. The Star Wars, any kind of community for anything is just terrible always. The Star Wars community were all upset because Obi-Wan Kenobi was acting kind of sheltered, reclused. And they're like, this isn't the Obi-Wan we knew from the Clone Wars, and I'm like, exactly. He survived a war. He watched his best friend become evil.
Actually, if you're going to go back to the original 1970s film, and you go to the original episode 4, Obi-Wan Kenobi, he is described as a crazy hermit.
Yes.
So Clone Wars Kenobi, for all you losers who are going to argue this, he was a crazy hermit. That was it. He was weird.
Yeah.
And he dies in the first movie then. So guess what?
We'll touch. Yeah. I was like just preparing myself for a rant about that.
It annoys me because
that character transition has to happen.
Well, also
right?
People aren't. There's different times in your life. Like it's not Clone Wars Kenobi. No shit. He was a general with thousands of troops at his command, wielding the most powerful, I don't know, magic if you want to call it that in the universe. He was riding high. Then he got his ass kicked. I mean, well, technically he won the fight, but like he had to kill his Padawan. He watched thousands of his friends die. He watched everything he thought he stood for crumble, which if we have time, which I doubt we will because I'm probably going to rant a lot about the Star Wars fandom, not the episodes. But I like the discussion of were the Jedi the true evil.
Oh, yeah.
I say yes.
Yeah.
Because much like I almost want to do a political rant, but we're gonna scoot.
We're gonna scoot right by that.
But anyway, yes, I like how they showed that different side of Kenobi, of him not being so high and mighty and arrogant. And it was like he suffered true loss and true defeat, and that was the result. PTSD.
Yes. And also, from, like, the movies, he was always like, the Jedi Order's right, the Jedi Order's right, the Jedi Order's right. And then after all this, there's nothing left. And he's like, I'm lost. The thing I put all my faith in just crumbled in front of me, and I don't know what to do.
I don't even think it was that. It was like it was destroyed, and he thought it was this absolute, they could never fail because the Force was on their side.
Right, but was the Force on their side?
I don't think it was. And I got to get it out real quick. The Jedi were the true evil. Because there's always the thing about they've talked about it for 50 frickin' years now. The Force is about balance. It's about balance. Well, the Jedi were overbalanced. They had an army. They did.
To what?
Is that outside?
Yeah.
Okay. No, I thought some crap was going downstairs. It's just the dogs. I was like, oh, my house is on fire.
I know what you're talking about. It's a beeping coming outside the window. Like
I hear high-pitched whine. All right, I'm going insane. But
yeah, I don't hear high-pitched whine, but my hearing is like destroyed.
Mop.
like you know in movies, whenever a flashbang grenade goes off and there's a high-pitched squeal, I think I'm at the point where that could go off right next to my ear and I would just be walking around totally fine. I wouldn't hear it.
I really have lost my... Okay, it's outside. I'm sorry. To get back to my original point, I'm sorry. We had to hit that little bump in the road, but now we're back. The Jedi were overpowered. The Sith wiped them all out, or most of them, and it evened the scales again.
Right, because Anakin brought balance to the Force, but it was not in the way everyone thought. They thought, oh, the Sith will be destroyed and everything will be good. And they were like, no, we kill all the Jedi.
That's why the Sith can't die. The Sith and the Jedi are just the newest incarnation of, like, there's other variations of that. That was just the most prominent, quote unquote. Force users are Force users. There's other things that can use the Force that aren't Jedi or Sith, and it was that balance, and that's why I didn't like. I saw an article. I did a little bit of homework for this. I saw an article that was like, however many reasons why Anakin's not the chosen one. Anakin was never the chosen one. Luke Skywalker was supposed to be the chosen one, you frickin' morons. It makes me so mad that just, I don't know. Let's get back to Obi-Wan. I'm griping too much. I liked the first episode. I thought it was great storytelling. Like you said, I agree with everybody. I thought it was weird. I didn't like seeing Obi-Wan the way he was portrayed, but I thought it was super cool that they went that route. And I thought he portrayed it very well.
And he kept having the nightmares of everything that happened, still haunted him. And what's interesting is what is kind of prevalent in the show is that if you don't have that connection to the Force, like, if you don't use it, you lose it. Like, this is a real thing of that. If you don't use the Force, you lose it. You know what I mean? Because you
can also somewhat purposely disconnect yourself from it.
Oh, yeah.
And for someone like that who's in hiding, they're probably trying to do that. But, quick side note too on the Force, even if you grow up like not being trained to use it, you can't use it to the same extent, but you would find yourself a little bit more intuitive about other people. Like you might be able to read them better, or you'd be super athletic because you'd be a lot more reactive, where in reality it's more like the Force, you're seeing stuff before it happens. So like it'll still manifest itself, just maybe not to the extent, again, that a Jedi can use it.
And also, in these newer shows, the Force is being kind of presented in a way that I feel like makes sense in what I always wanted the Force to be.
Hell yes.
Like we'll get
Star Wars: The Force Unleashed. That's what it was supposed to be.
In all the movies until like the kind of more recent ones, and then the more recent TV shows, that's how I see the Force being used. Instead of levitating just stupid rocks or like barely being able to pick, like just stopping a whole ship from getting away and just smashing it.
I love how some people are complaining. They're like, "That's not the Force." I'm like, "Yes, it is. That's always what was envisioned. It's just back in the '70s. How do you do that?
Yeah, how do you do that with?
You can't do that without like crazy special effects, and they just didn't have them back then."
Yeah, and that's people holding on to the nostalgia from the original trilogy. And
there was the original trilogy, and then the first 3 episodes came out, and you saw it more. They could jump like crazy. They did the speed run, and like they could deflect more stuff. And I like that they're showing the Force the way they did.
Yeah, it's finally the Force is being represented in a cool way. It's it's not like, oh, it can levitate a rock. It can sometimes deflect blaster. Like in this, like Obi-Wan is like deflecting every shot and just trying to protect.
I can't wait till we get to the last episode.
Oh yeah, let's get moving, because that last episode, I watched a video breaking it down, and the cinematography and staging of everything behind the scenes. Oh, it's so good. And once it was pointed out, and I kind of caught this when I watched the scene initially, and then someone pointed out, I'm like, okay, I'm not crazy for thinking that. So episode 1 introduces everything, and Leia Organa, the person they picked to play little Leia, I thought was great.
I thought she did a really good job.
She did a really good job, and a lot of people complain, but people love to complain. And there wasn't anything by it. They're just like, I don't like kids. I'm like, okay, cool.
But Kate watched like the first episode or 2 with me, and she was like, her one gripe, she was like, that kid's not 10. She's a midget.
Yeah.
I was like, that's what you're going to focus on?
Hey, honestly, if she's watching, that's what she's focusing on. Okay, cool. So at the end of episode 1, we're kind of introduced to Leia Organa and Reva, the one who's so obsessed with finding Obi-Wan, which are kind of... She's very annoying and hot-headed, and she is that way throughout the thing. And I understand, like, for her character, they wanted her to be like that, almost unhinged and so focused.
But that's supposed to be the type of characters they were. How everybody complained about Adam Driver. I think I've talked about this before. How he was so crazy portraying Kylo Ren.
Yeah.
That's what Anakin Skywalker was supposed to be originally, like unhinged. Attachment leads you to these crazy emotions, and so that would make sense that others following along that quote-unquote dark path would be like that. And I think she did it well. I thought she was kind of badass.
Yeah, she is. It's that character archetype, me personally, annoys me.
I think she was annoying as hell, but I think that's what was supposed to be.
Oh, yeah, and they did a good job, and she did a good job portraying that. It's the character archetype I don't like, but it makes sense for the... And and there's a mystery of why she's so unhinged. There's something that happened, and it shows it in the beginning of that episode when all the little younglings are like...
Well, as soon as they showed them running away, I'm like, okay, so which one's going to be in the Inquisitors?
Yeah, exactly. So, and the Grand Inquisitor, he's a cool dude. And just from watching Rebels, Star Wars Rebels,
I never saw the last season of Clone Wars either, so I have a lot of stuff.
Neither have I, honestly. It's been sitting there in my backlog. Like I know what happens, but I haven't sat down and watched it because Clone Wars got canceled because Disney bought out Star Wars, and then they stopped showing it on Cartoon Network, I believe.
Yeah, I saw the last episode where Ahsoka walked out, and I was like, there's no closure!
Yeah, and then there's closure. But, let's throw this out there real quick. They're making an animated short series that threads the timeline of Ahsoka ending up in Mandalorian and stuff like that. But also, it's a storyline of young Count Dooku.
I think that would be pretty interesting.
And I've seen some shots of like the character designs and stuff, and young Dooku looks He looks cool, and I don't know
because
if
he was a Jedi when he was younger. So
Yeah,
that would be an interesting story to see how he
trained under was it Yoda? Yeah, I think it was Yoda.
Canonically, by the movies, yes, it would have been Yoda.
Yeah, he trained under Yoda.
Going canonically, Obi-Wan Kenobi supposedly trained under Yoda, but he didn't. He trained under Qui-Gon Jinn.
Yeah. Okay, let's go on to episode 2. We kind of covered those bits. So, all right, Leia got kidnapped, and then the next episode, after Mr. Dad, Bail Organa, shows up, and he's like, dude, please save my kid. And he's like, I have to protect Luke. And he's like, yo, Luke's a little bitch. My daughter, much better. And it was like, okay, cool.
I mean, I agree.
Yeah. So, after tracking the kidnappers to the planet Dayu, because Star Wars can't have normal names, Kenobi encounters con man Haja Estri, which I do like him.
He was in that the Marvel. I feel so bad I can't think of his name.
Eternals, whatever.
Yeah,
he was in. I didn't see it.
Kuman. I can't. I'm so sorry. I can't remember his name, but he was awesome. I love him as an actor.
I've every movie I've seen him in, he's great.
He's typecast now, but
yeah, he's like the con man, goofy guy, sorta.
Yeah, but
he kills it. Yeah, oh my gosh,
so he can pull it off.
Yeah. So, all right, he encounters this guy who pretends to be a Jedi. So, I hope I'm saying Haja right. Directs Kenobi to Leia's location, where he defeats the kidnappers and rescues her. The Grand Inquisitor learns of their presence and puts the city on lockdown. Reva disobeys orders and places a new bounty on Kenobi, causing all the mercenaries in the city to target him and Leia. When Leia realizes they are after Kenobi, she loses trust in him and runs away. Escaping to a roof, the mercenaries attempt to kill them. Leia jumps off, and Kenobi saves her using the Force, gaining her trust. Haja finds them and directs them to an unguarded cargo port from which they can escape, but cannot stop Reva from following them. Reva reveals to Kenobi that Anakin, whom Kenobi believed to be dead, is still alive as Darth Vader. The Grand Inquisitor arrives to arrest Kenobi himself, but Reva stabs him with her lightsaber, inadvertently allowing Kenobi and Leia to escape. And then elsewhere, Vader awakens in a back of the tank. So at the end of the episode, we're introduced to Vader, and then Kenobi is informed that Anakin's still alive. And
he had PTSD all these years because he's like, Anakin killed all these kids. I couldn't save anybody, and then I had to kill Anakin. And then, I always thought that was interesting because I never even thought about that. Like
him not knowing.
He walked away, and then he was a recluse for 10 years, not following this. How would he ever know? So I thought that was kind of a cool detail that was thrown in there. I was like, why is he so surprised? And I was like, oh!
And you never think of that. You just always assume. And then when they brought it up, you're like, oh yeah, he would have no idea. I also like throughout the series how until the end, he uses a blaster. And I distinctly remember in episode 3 when he's like uncivilized and throws a blaster, but now he's running around using a blaster because
probably trying to somewhat hide. He doesn't want to use the lightsaber because obviously then everybody screams Jedi. But also, they make a joke about that in Republic Commandos as well. There's a little side vent you can take on when you're on the starship or whatever,
right?
And you find a lightsaber just kind of laying around, and he goes, what do you say? He's like, a more civilized weapon for a more civilized time. He goes, well, these aren't civilized times. And I was like, yes, I love the Clone Commandos.
The Clone Commandos are just the best.
Man, I hope they get a remake not a remake, a second game of
theirs. Sequel or something. Just more Republic Commandos, please.
Yeah, but
yeah, he's running around with a blaster. A lot of action scenes in this one. A lot of cool stuff. And at
a lot of dead stormtroopers.
A lot of dead stormtroopers. And at the end of the first episode, I forgot to touch on this. This was a gripe I had. It's not important. Obviously for cinematic reason, he pulls aside the cape and has the lightsaber and he's going to go save her. He does that right in front of the starport thing. Like, that lady, if
he also does it a lot. I'm like, dude, you could stick it just right inside your little vest.
You don't have to show it.
You're so worried about being discovered, and you're like, hey, guys, here's the lightsaber.
Look what I found.
Sir, what is that? Dildo?
And the stormtrooper's like,
what?
Nice. The stormtrooper's like, you just carry around on you. You're proud, man.
Is that the TX-900? He's like, it's the TX-1000.
that's not even out yet. Can I try it? So he's like, he's trying not to give up his position. So he like gives it to him. It's like, how's it work? All right. It's like, okay. You have to put you have to put it right up your butt, and just the red button, you press it and it'll activate.
Just boom, right out the dude's helmet. He's like,
and then he just like falls over, and then just Obi-Wan takes it, and he's like,
He's like, I'm gonna have to remember that one.
How Obi-Wan ends up killing all the stormtroopers for the rest of the show is he's convincing them all to dildo, and they all try it, and it's a long process. They don't even question why is he there. It's like
10 billion stormtroopers. How many can I get with that trick?
A lot more than you would think.
Yeah.
A lot more than you would think. Oh, so all right. So that one, honestly, it was just a lot of, just a lot of action. He gets captured and he gets Leia, but there was some character building between Obi-Wan and Leia. But the most important thing, the thing that stuck out to me most, was the one part when Obi-Wan is talking to Leia and telling her that she reminds him of someone. Mm-hmm. Do you remember that bit?
Yeah.
And he's talking about all these great characteristics, and I took it as for two ways. And she was like, because he said that she's dead. Canonically, in the universe, it was that one senator from that one planet he had the hots for during the Clone Wars. I forget her name.
Anakin's wife?
No. Talk about Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan had a love interest in the Clone Wars.
In the Clone Wars, the animated show.
Yeah, the animated shows. Yeah. I felt like he was talking about her.
I thought he was talking about her mom.
Well, that was another thing I was going to bring up. That also he was talking about. Right, so there's three ways you could take that, and I think it was left vague for a few reasons. Talking about mom, talking about his past love interest, because if you never watched the Clone Wars, you'd be like, oh, he's talking about Padme. Okay, if you watch the Clone Wars, oh, he's talking about that lady. Or it is a kind of a, what's the word I'm looking for? It is a
reference.
It is a paying homage to Carrie Fisher, Leia.
Yeah, I hadn't ever thought about that.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just her as a person. It was very exact but vague enough that I perceived it those different ways.
I would like to think it's all three.
All three at once. And then at the end, it's like, what happened? It's like, they're dead. I'm like, damn, Obi-Wan, like, it's his child. Just like...
Really? What happened to this amazing person? They fucking died!
Because Darth Maul killed Obi-Wan's love interest in Clone Wars.
That was a hard scene to watch.
Yeah, because he just pulled her toward him and just stabbed her with the lightsaber. I mean, just
Obi-Wan I was like, wow, that was when I was like, this isn't a kid's show anymore. That was brutal.
I do always like... I
like how it was all goofy and silly in the beginning, and then by the end, it's like, they're dying in my arms. I'm like, okay, Batman.
Yeah, I honestly feel like the Clone Wars portrayed Anakin a little better than like the movies did, but that's a different discussion for a different day.
That's back to why people didn't like Hayden Christensen. And I didn't think he was a bad actor, but he didn't have the range needed. And I think it's actually nice that they brought him back, because he was still a little mild, but I thought they gave him a chance to redeem himself, because he still acted, and I thought he did. I thought he gave it a lot more range, and I'm happy that he got that second chance to be like, hey guys, I'm not like 16 anymore. I can act now.
But I'm old now, and Daddy does know that my daughter knows that Daddy is Darth Vader. That's the clip that's been going around. He was on a late show, and they was like, does your kid know that Daddy's Darth Vader? And he's like, yeah, she is aware that Daddy is Darth Vader. And everyone is just like stitching it. It's like, Daddy is Darth Vader is Daddy. And that was honestly just kind of the episode where Obi-Wan and little Leia kind of built that trust.
This is still episode 2, correct?
Yeah, we're still on we're about to go to 3 just because it was a lot of action.
One last thing I did like that they threw in there, because I think it adds to the theory of like why the Jedi were evil. Because they're supposed to fight for all life, but then they just took 3 million clone troops and discarded them.
Oh yeah, the one clone trooper.
The clone trooper was in there because everybody's like, what happened? What happened? Stormtroopers are not the clone warriors from the series.
Oh yeah.
The clone warriors had to be high end, like badasses to fight and kill all the Jedi. once that was done, he had no need of such exacting performance. It took, half a lifetime to train them because they had accelerated aging, but still, 20-year-old fighter takes 10 years. It's not a good lead time. So stormtroopers, once that was done, clones were discarded and just, you're dead. They still probably had a few elite units, but overall it was the crappy stormtroopers, which is also why
they're also just terrible at what they do.
they can't hit anything. Everybody's like, why were they so much better? It's like, there is canonically reasons for all this, but I like that little nod that they threw in there. It's like, they didn't even kill the clones. They were just like, all right, you're done. You're too old to fight. Get out. Go die somewhere.
Yeah, and during the Clone Wars TV show, a lot of the clones, a good portion of them, and the Bad Batch even. Have you watched Bad Batch?
No, is it good?
Bad Batch is fantastic.
Okay,
it is far better than Clone Wars or anything. They had chips that in their brains implanted that if they were ever to be like, oh, I'm not going to follow command, it would put them back in line. And in the Clone Wars, like toward the end, a lot of the the main character clone troopers had them removed because they found out they had them and they never knew. So there was like that's when you get like the tiny pockets of clone resistance, but like all the other ones were just killed off.
There's the book series if you're a huge nerd about the clone commandos, and like a lot of them start to defect at the end because it's like, well, they're thinking, breathing humans, and once they see the outside world, a lot of them are like, why am I gonna die for this?
Yeah,
and so that's what it was.
Rebels digs into that a lot. A lot of characters from the Clone Wars TV show, the clones, show up there, and they're all old, fat, and haggard.
It's like, I don't know. Everybody's like, the Jedi are so great, and I'm like, they're kind of not.
It's just
I know they were like at one point they were, but it was like anything. They got power and it corrupted them. So like, even though the Sith are evil and they do a lot of bad stuff, it's like they're not wrong for thinking that the Jedi are kind of bloated and outdated. They were.
Yeah. And what
just like the American government. Zing. All right, I'm done.
and what the Empire brought was, even though it was oppression, it was order.
And that's always, but order comes with the cost of freedom.
And I think the idea is just that it is like this equilibrium of the Force will balance itself out, and if one side gets too powerful, they'll all get wiped out.
Can I use this to transition into the third episode?
Yeah, exactly. Because I was about can I read the
do the synopsis
real quick. In a fortress on Mustafar, Vader instructs Reva to find Kenobi, promising to promote her to Grand Inquisitor if she succeeds. She also told everyone that, Kenobi killed the Grand Inquisitor, when it was obviously her, because she's like, I want to get Kenobi. Kenobi and Leia's transport lands on the mining planet Mapuzo. Still stupid names. I do like we'll talk about him. And they proceed to rendezvous provided by Haja. And I think I pronounce that differently every time, but I'm stupid and white. Forgive me. Finding no one there, they take a ride on an Imperial transport. They are discovered and Imperial troops are sent to capture them, but they receive help from an Imperial officer, Tala, which I thought Tala was awesome, who is a member of the Path, an underground network that hides dissidents and outlaws hunted by the Empire. She escorts them to a secret subterranean passageway before they leave. Vader and the Inquisitors arrive and begin to harm innocent bystanders to lure Kenobi. Kenobi sends Leia and Tala ahead while he provides a distraction. He's eventually confronted by Vader, who overpowers Kenobi with his Force choke and burns him, leaving him in pain. Tala provides a distraction to save Kenobi, but Leia is captured by Reva. All right. Segue, go.
I also really liked how they had, when they first get there, the dude in the transport picks him up, and Kenobi's like, you can't trust anybody, and Leia's like, we can trust people, and it's like, well, shut up, you're 10, you've never left your, palace, you don't know what you're talking about. But anyway.
But the farmer little mole man was so nice.
But he wasn't. He picked them up specifically to turn them in at the checkpoint.
Yeah. But he was so nice. He was like, I'm just, come on, hop in, brother.
But that's what I liked about. They showed that, just talking about how, where the Jedi evil is the Empire evil, yada yada, to 99% of the galaxy, there's no difference. The Empire cracked down on a lot of stuff and did order and did a lot of bad stuff, but at the same time, by doing that, a lot of people got better lives. This dude was happy. He's like, I feel safe. I run these transports. I know these clone troopers. I am happy. As much as people don't want to admit it, it did good stuff. Now, overall, I'll say it was probably bad.
But I thought the interaction of the stormtroopers with that guy, that
they
also
knew
proved
him.
it. They're like, how you doing? He's like, I'm doing awesome. Hail the Empire. How are you? And he's like, yo, I'm doing fine. Like, the stormtroopers.
But I loved that they did. It was such a subtle thing, but I'm watching it and I'm like, everybody's like, you're fascist, but like, it helped a lot of people. It hurt a lot of people, but it helped a lot. Just like the Jedi. There were thousands and thousands of Jedi. And if you ever pay attention, do you know how they're taken as babies?
Oh, yeah.
They are abducted from their families.
As soon as they are seen as Force sensitive, they're swiped up and they're like, hey, and listen, so, like, this is for the betterment of the galaxy and you gotta back off. And now, they wouldn't kill them, but they would just steal their babies.
And I guess I just looking at that, it's like, everybody's like, the Empire's evil. It's like, yeah, they're doing bad stuff, but like, look at what the Jedi did. That's a family that lost a kid. I can't imagine everybody wanted to do that. Yeah. It's not like you got compensated. They're just like, give me your kid.
Oh, yeah, they definitely probably weren't. The Jedi have lightsabers and they can make rocks float in your room.
Oh, no, they were rich. They had an unlimited budget. But that's, again, why people, like, they ran through, I loved the duality of it showing, like, a lot of people don't like the Empire, but there is a section of people where either it doesn't affect, like, there's plenty of worlds where it was just, like, instead of security, it got taken over, and then there's stormtroopers. But nothing really changed. It's just a change of perspective. It's a change of who's sitting in the office. Exactly. That's what it was, and I keep hammering that, but I thought that was one of the more powerful scenes in the show, of them just being like, there's people who want this. There's people who don't miss the Jedi. There's people who are like, awesome, finally some law and order in this world. Because Jedi, they couldn't police everywhere, and the Empire was friggin' everywhere. So as much bad as it did, it also did a lot of good, because it wiped out a lot of the bad stuff that was happening.
Because the Jedi couldn't be everywhere.
Yeah.
And they would just like send one Jedi to go like, all right, go patrol this town, and it's like, it's a town on a planet. It's a whole planet.
Before then, they were more like negotiators and stuff, and they're basically like, I'm here to help, but fix your own problems. Yeah. Also, can we talk about, you sparked something else. Ewan McGregor trying to say the word can't. I can't! Like, he put so much force into it. Every time I'm like, dude, I know what you're saying, but...
He can't say can't.
But next time, if you ever rewatch it, just listen for it. It's going to stick out. He's like, I can't do it! And you're just like, oh, man, it's so harsh on the ears.
And Ewan McGregor's just like, I can't do it!
And he's not like, I think it's just his normal pronunciation, but it was like, I was like, wow, how did no, like, director or anything be like, hey, man, can you just a little bit of emphasis?
Or they just go back and edit it, because they can do that. They can...
it's just, you're screaming cunt at a bunch of little kids watching this.
Yeah, and then, like Leia, during that scene, they have to create an alias for themselves when the stormtroopers are asking him. Leia's on it, and Obi-Wan is just like, and he is just so, and Leia's like, and he's accidentally calls her like Leia, and they're like, you just called that kid Leia.
You said her name was Tali or something, I don't know,
and
he's like,
my wife, since it's been hard, you see.
He's really playing the dead wife card up for somebody who never had a wife. Well, he had his little love interest.
He had the love interest that Maul killed. Oh my! I love the.
I really liked. Again, going back to, I really liked how they made him just so dejected and defeated, and he's like, dude, this is so much effort. I just want to get this brat home so I can go back to my cave.
And it's not even like he hates the kid. It's just
he's scared.
He is carrying the weight, blaming himself for his everything. Failure. Right. And well, you just look at that last episode.
I disagree. It's still a failure.
All right, we'll get there.
But not his alone.
Okay. And all right. So when he finally sees Vader, and he's like, "What are you?" And he's like, "I am what you made me." And that could even be, if taking your approach on it, that Anakin was just like, the things we're doing in the control, he was like, how do I put it? He was the black sheep, and everyone kind of put him as the chosen one. And
because he was strong.
Exactly. And he was the one who's kind of like spoke out. It's like, well, we should go help those people. And the Jedi Order's like, no, we don't do that. And I'm taking reference from like the Clone Wars and Extended Universe,
Well,
but it's
in those when he was growing up in that time of war too, he was a lot of Jedi. The younger generation was like, "You taught us to do this thing that you say you stand for. It's protect life. War is the antithesis of that. War is domination by death."
yes.
And that's now I shouldn't say that alone. A lot of the time it can be defense of your homeland, that kind of stuff. But the point is, it's like Jedis weren't warriors; they were peacekeepers,
Almost like a samurai.
Yes,
like
they were supposed to serve the people. That's what samurai means, is to serve.
And the purpose of a samurai, they would do anything to avoid conflict. They would the conflict was not their first thing, but especially like in the movies. And I mean, Anakin, he was a hothead. He was prideful, and that kind of led to his downfall. But also there were times when he would be like, oh, we should try this, and other Jedi, it's...
Well, it goes back to the old, and it's kind of a biblical theme, but why is the devil the devil? He was an angel who got cast out of heaven because he didn't want to go with the status quo. And I'm not trying to make any reference. It's that age old, you speak out, you're told you're wrong, but
and everyone gets mad at you because you became Darth Vader.
Yeah, but
everyone's like, but you became Darth Vader, and it's like, dude, I just had some ideas on what to do at the next staff meeting,
one of the best...
and you cut my limbs off. Of course I'm mad.
Here's the other thing, and it's again, with time, it's overanalyzed. It's just a nerd overanalyzing, but
oh yeah.
Remember when in the initial? I know we got to get back to the episodes. I'm sorry, but I think it ties in episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, when he's fighting. Or what was episode 3? Rise of the Sith?
Revenge of the Sith.
Okay, yeah, I had it right. I don't know why I'm mixing that up. But anyway, when they're fighting and he's in Obi-Wan screaming at him the Sith are evil. And he's like, from my point of view, the Jedi are evil. If you stop and think about it, the Jedi found out who the rightfully elected, doesn't matter if it was rigged or whatnot, but the actually elected official of the Republic, the Chancellor, I'm sorry, yeah, there we go. He was an elected official. Just because he was a Sith, they went in there and tried to kill him and take him out. That's technically an illegal action. It had no legal basis beyond them saying, we're Jedi and we say this is okay.
And they were all about defending the Republic until...
Exactly. He was elected. Doesn't matter. If they didn't like it, they should have gone and said to the Senate and all the senators, they'd be like, "Yo, guys, he's a Sith. He's not fit for office. You should kick him out." And this is getting bogged down in politics and all this other stuff. But at the same time, in a certain point of view, the Jedi were evil. They
were just blue evil.
Yeah.
Sith are red evil. Jedi is blue evil.
Yeah.
To simplify it.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to go that far, but yeah.
So, and with just so we don't, because there's another point. Tala's a cool character. I thought Tala was great.
She was definitely an interesting character. She was the Imperial officer who saves them at the checkpoint.
Yeah, at the checkpoint, they find out Obi-Wan. It's Obi-Wan, and she kills them all, and she's like, all right, let's go.
Did you also notice that subtle little detail in there, too, about how Obi-Wan kept screaming about, he's like, I told you, we can't trust anybody, we can't trust anybody. And then how he kept screaming, he thought he was wrong. He's like, nobody's coming to help us. We can't trust this driver, and blah, blah, blah. And then he's like, I'm right. And then all of a sudden, this Imperial officer's there. She's like, I was going to the coordinates, but you left. And he was like...
I do love that bit, because he's like, and now he's just impatient and anxious and just...
I just love how he's screaming about how you can't trust people. And he was right, but he was also wrong that somebody was coming to help them.
And then the fight...
And if he had trusted from the beginning, it could have all just been...
It could have just been... Oh, okay, real quick. With the Vader fighting Kenobi in that gravel yard, the gravel pit. Can we just... All right, it was a cool fight, and then he, burns... He, lights a fire on the ground, and just, with the Force just drags Obi-Wan through it and just burns him. Right? And then they get him out of there. And no one thinks to just walk around the fire to go after him. They're like,
That's Star Wars in a nutshell.
I know.
Vader has the Force. He could have just floated over. He also ripped a ship to shreds with the Force. He could have just been like Crusher Skull.
Yeah,
or Force Choker.
It's one of those things where it's movie magic, and you just have to nod your head and accept that. Okay, movie magic. That's what we're dealing with right now. And it doesn't make sense because you can clearly see on the side that's just a little gravel bank. Like just run up it and go after him.
Vader
but they were like, "Oh no, he's getting away."
Vader probably could have just walked through.
Oh, he could have. He definitely could have.
He doesn't have feet. It's robot legs.
It is robot legs. He could have just skated through that. And then at the end of the episode, Reva captures Leia.
Yeah.
Because Obi-Wan's like, go run. And
she kills the pilot.
Yeah, and every episode was just kind of like, it was always a cliffhanger. And you're like, oh my gosh, what's next? What's next? Okay. All right, next, this will be episode 4. And there are 6 episodes, so we're almost done. Having escaped Vader on stupid Star Wars name. I'm not even going to say the names of planets anymore because they're dumb. It's Mapuzo. Kenobi and Tala arrive at a path facility on Jabim. It's another stupid Star Wars name. Meanwhile, Leia being held in Fortress... They call it Fortress Inquisitorius, which is interesting. That is the same fortress that is featured in Jedi Fallen Order, the video game. So it's interesting how they're pulling stuff from video games and bringing it in when
and that one was underwater too.
Right, it was the underwater place. So in the fortress, the stronghold headquarters of the Inquisitors located on Nur, that's the planet, that's what it's called, is now being interrogated for details on the path by Reva. Kenobi and Tala plan to infiltrate the fortress and rescue Leia. Once inside, Kenobi discovers a trophy vault filled with the preserved corpses of Jedi who have been captured and killed, including a youngling. They rescue Leia, but Tala's cover is blown and their presence is revealed. They eventually escape with the help from Path Commander Joaquin and his guerrilla troops. Vader, angered throughout the events, moves to kill Reva for her failure, but spares her when she reveals that she attached a tracker to Leia's companion droid Lola in anticipation of her rescue. So this episode was pretty cool because they, invade this place and they find all those Jedi down there.
Did you notice that one of the Jedi was from the Clone Wars animated series?
Yeah, which
the older one who helped Ahsoka when she lost her lightsaber.
Yes,
I'm sure he was probably featured in other ones, but that's the one that I remember.
Yeah.
Because I saw him, I was like, he's familiar, and I was like, I hoped he had died in his sleep.
And what's so interesting about the Inquisitors in general is like they are literally just this force of like, okay, there's only 5 Jedis. We only keep it at 5, and our job is to hunt down Jedi. And when we find them, we kill them, and we, bring the corpse back to be sure, they're dead. We put them in this, amber-looking goop, Jurassic Park style.
Is the Force Unleashed canon?
No.
Or it is not.
It is not.
Okay, never mind. That kills that theory.
Right, because at the end of Force Unleashed, the first one, the rebellion is formed around Starkiller's death. But since Disney took over, that is no longer canon.
Yeah, I'm assuming it's the path because you saw their symbol in there.
Exactly. Yeah, it slowly turns into the rebellion over time. Because the Starkiller sacrifices himself to save the leaders of what would become the rebellion, Bail Organa and all them.
I'd save that pilot too. I won't lie.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And then there was the second one when they actually he
was so whiny.
The Force Unleashed 2 was such a weird game because it was
fun gameplay, but that story was trash and
it was so disjointed. And I bought it, the Steelbook edition. I was so excited. I played it and I'm like, oh, this is actual ass. It looks beautiful, plays fun, but it's short. And it was
gotta love the gameplay to do that.
Yeah, and what happened through investigation was that was in a time where games would take their time. Now this entered into the era where games would be rushed, and there was so much cut content. I remember reading on when he goes to Dagobah. I don't know why he went to Dagobah in the first place, but there was a whole level where there was a crashed Trade Federation ship on the planet, and he had to go through the entire ship killing battle droids and everything.
Man, that would have been awesome.
Exactly. No, they cut it. And then they just went with the nostalgia, and the, this character, all that kind of bait stuff. So yeah, that's not canon. So the underwater fortress, I thought it was really cool. And
it's basically just a prison break story. That whole episode.
That whole episode, it really is. It is just 100% prison break.
Suspense. How do you get out? You find them. Metal scene of the little girl's about to get tortured.
Oh yeah, they're about to torture her, and then they're about.
I was kind of like I was a little sadistic because I was in the scene. I'm like, are they gonna do it? Are they gonna push that boundary? Are they gonna torture her?
They're not gonna push that boundary. Disney, come on.
I mean, they did in the initial. Now he was a grown man, but they tortured Han Solo.
Right, but you didn't see it either.
No,
and
but
that
still
ball
thought
just walked
cool.
up to his face and was just slapping.
Yeah, but then you heard him screaming and I was waiting for them to do the same thing, but then little Leia screamed. I was like,
yeah, and then it was oh, you have to show up immediately.
Yeah,
and you have to be here right now, and yeah, honestly, it was just a good prison break episode, and then those two guerrilla fighters started blowing up the Star Wars is a very interesting series because for movie magic reasons, you throw a lot of stuff out the window. You just throw a lot of logic outside of just to make it more compelling, I guess. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You kind of have to.
Exactly, and
it's
a lot
about
of
the story, so you do have to be a little forgiving.
Yeah. So you know what? Before we go to part 5 and 6, let's just take a step back. Just take a second and take a little break, and we'll come back and finish our 2.
See you in a few.
Hey gamer, I'm just taking a second to check in on you. You see, the last time your mom and I were hanging out, she may have subtly dropped the hint that you're not really sure how to support the podcast. And honestly, when I walked out of her room only wearing a bath towel and we locked eyes, I could see it on your face. There's quite a few ways you can support the podcast. You can find us on Twitter at sure_podcast, over on Instagram, It Sure Is a Podcast, YouTube, and TikTok. It Sure Is a Podcast. That's all you got to look up. And then TikTok is for you Zoomers out there, because I post some real stupid shit there. For Eric and I, you listening is probably just one of the best things in the world. But if you do want to support us, those are ways you can. Also, just tell a friend that, hey, we listened to a terrible podcast. You should hop in on this. Also, if you want to support us monetarily, whatever one that makes you give us money, you can go on over to www.buymeacoffee.com/ISIA podcast. There you can drop us a few bucks and be on your way. But like I said earlier, just you guys listening is really enough for us. Okay, and we're back. Now, at the beginning of the episode, you're probably sitting there like, why did I just hear an order for food? That's literally just what I did during our break, because I wanted to order food.
I loved it so much, I just wanted it kept in.
You're like, keep that in. You better keep that in. Okay, let's go back to my list here, because I had to bring up the... Alright, so we're on episode 5. Vader reflects on lightsaber training he had with Kenobi prior to the Clone Wars, which I thought was really cool.
Yes.
As he tracks the Path network to Jabim, Vader promotes Reva to Grand Inquisitor, who leads a siege on the Path facility, deactivating its escape doors. To stall for time, Kenobi negotiates with Reva and deduces that she knows Vader's true identity as she witnessed his massacre at the Jedi Temple on Coruscant as a youngling. She reveals she wanted to gain Vader's favor to kill him for revenge rather than serve him. The facility is then breached, and Tala sacrificing herself, which is pretty sad, to save Kenobi. Realizing they cannot win, Kenobi surrenders and is taken to Reva. There, he convinces Reva to kill Vader when she delivers him to Kenobi. Meanwhile, Leia opens the doors after removing Lola's tracker, allowing the Path to escape before Vader besieges the facility. Reva, have I been saying that Reva?
I think it is Reva.
Yeah, when I read a name over and over again, my brain's like, have you been saying it wrong the whole time?
That's any word, yeah.
Uses this opportunity to try to kill Vader, but is quickly overpowered after a brief duel and is stabbed. She is left for dead, and the original Grand Inquisitor arrives to reaffirm his status. As the Path network escapes, Reva finds Bail Organa's message on Kenobi's transmitter, revealing Luke's location on Tatooine. I do. It's a meme right now when that Grand Inquisitor shows up and just goes, "Hello." Like, it just that meme is popping up everywhere of just different scenarios and just him popping his head up over like, "Hello."
This was the episode where I stopped liking her storyline
Yeah,
because it was so confusing. And I understand like you have to. She wanted to get close to Vader to kill him.
Yes.
I understand it.
Yes.
You have to do some bad stuff to prove your loyalty because they're Inquisitors. I get it.
Right, and her objective was to become the Grand Inquisitor to get so close to him that she could attempt to kill him.
So, I mean, in looking at it in that light, it makes sense.
Right.
I don't understand the obsession with Kenobi.
Okay, I agree with that, yes.
That didn't make a lot of sense. The needless torture and whatnot, like if you really want to bug what's-his-face, letting people go and helping them furthers your cause.
Yes.
I understand that at points you're gonna have to cross that line. You're gonna have to kill people. If this is your all-consuming goal and you're gonna do whatever it takes, that's fine. But I thought they didn't do the duality justice in like I have to be evil to get close to him, but like he just did a lot of dumb stuff that didn't make sense. And again, I'm not blaming the actress. I really liked her spin on it. They gave her kind of like a little bit of that sass, a little bit of that like kind of.
I was gonna say
almost gangster style, like
attitude, and just being a hothead.
Yeah,
to
like
the point
I
where
thought
it's
she
annoying.
did awesome. It was just, I don't know that This is the one where it kind of got crisscrossed, and I'm like, this doesn't make a lot of sense. I get when you sit back and look at it, like you narrowed it down. It's like I'm gonna do whatever it takes to get close to Vader. Yeah,
I think maybe the reason she was so obsessed with Kenobi is just
Vader
to bring Kenobi to Vader to prove I brought you this guy. We can be best friends, and then she would try to kill him.
I have one more major gripe with her storyline, but that's for episode 6.
Okay, so episode 6, we'll touch on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it didn't make that much sense for Kenobi, but also it was kind of mirrored that Anakin, well, Darth Vader, and in this episode you see it, but more in episode 6, where he's kind of obsessed with Kenobi after he finds out he's like, after,
I mean, Kenobi cut off
all his limbs.
I mean, he already had one robot hand, and then Obi-Wan was just like, whoop, now you got 4 robot limbs. And then left him to burn in lava. Like, the merciful thing would have been to
kill
stab him
and
in
he
the
just
face.
let him, like, burn to death.
Yeah. And, like, it was his master. He felt betrayed.
Yes.
He in his mind probably thinks, I offered you a chance to join me. We could have been like leaders together, and he rejected it. And he's like, you poisoned my wife against me. My kids are dead because of you. There's a lot there that probably psychologically in that moment is like, you'll never move past this until he's dead.
And what's interesting is did Vader have any kind of interaction with Leia at all?
No, I don't think Vader, because if he'd had, he probably would have sensed that,
oh my gosh, this is my kid. I think
at some point in time, he has to learn about the children, because in the original movies, Luke, I am your father. He knew he was Luke's father.
I think maybe that was just being in proximity of him. He's like, oh, I can sense it with the Force.
That's Vader, definitely possible.
Also, Vader's just like, I knew about your plan the whole time. And I
thought that was a metal scene, though. Like, when it was going, like you said, between Vader and then young Anakin Skywalker, and from the point of view, and he just stabs her, and then it goes to the point of view of her as a kid getting stabbed in the chest by a lightsaber. I was like, dang.
And then some of those episodes, like, hey, warning, there's going to be some pretty edgy stuff.
I'm not crazy. That wasn't on every episode.
It was on every episode. Okay, just the one when kids were getting killed.
Because I watched it and I was like, I don't remember this last time. Am I not paying attention? Or no, I was like, yeah, it's a metal episode.
Yeah, it was a pretty really metal. Very metal. And I do like when she swings a lightsaber and he just like puts his hand out and catches it, but like doesn't touch it.
He's with the Force, he's just stopping it. I also like too, this is when the beginning of, I think a lot of people probably took him by surprise when he used the Force to grab the ship at the very end when they're escaping.
That was so cool!
And he just grabbed it and I think a lot of people might wonder why, some people, again, real reason why way back when they didn't have the ability to simulate this in movies and stuff. So that's probably why you didn't see it before. But
Yeah.
also, a lot of people I don't think realize that the Jedi and the Sith learn different skills and they use the Force in
Differently.
really different ways. So the Sith have these raw bursts of power where the Jedi have more of like kind of a not resigned, passive use of the Force. They're very good at sensing things. They're very good at identifying people. They're very good at speaking with ghosts of their former masters. They're good at healing.
We'll
They
touch on that. At
they're
the
good
last
at
episode.
healing. So they're like the finesse use of the Force, whereas the Sith are just raw power. They can catch ships and crush them. So it's
That scene, so cool.
just stopped it
and
dead
he,
in the
and
air.
he's just pulling it down. It's trying to fly
I was
away.
expecting like the Force Unleashed, where it's like this big thing. Now, granted, that was a Star Destroyer, but
Oh my-
like it was all slow, and I was like, "Oh man, they're gonna draw this out." No, he just down, ripped,
And he's
done.
ripping through it like a fat kid through cake. And like the walls of the ship are being torn apart. And he's like,
They
"Get over!"
they started that in Fallen Order at the very end, the ending scene of the game when you're running away from Vader. And
Oh
he's
yeah,
just
and
tearing
he's
stuff
just
up.
tearing that like the water
I-
bridge. He's just ripping that apart. You're like,
Because I was always curious too. I was like, well, if they're gonna bring Vader back, I wonder how they're gonna make him scary. Because everybody was afraid of Vader, and it's not really. I mean, he's still good with the lightsaber, but he's still crippled because of all the cybernetics and stuff. He's not the warrior in a sense with a
used to
lightsaber,
be, yes.
but his use of the Force is so like just
Oh
scary.
my gosh! And
Like
what-
we skipped. I'm sorry, I keep cutting you off. Last thing, when he or in the earlier episode when he was walking through and he just snapped that kid's neck who was trying to help his dad.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, oh no, they're gonna go that route with Vader, and I think that was an awesome portrayal.
There was no like lifting and choking. Just he looked over.
Well,
just,
he was
and he just
choking
twisted
and-
his hand and just.
Well, he was like, yeah, choking and dragging the kid's dad, and then like the kid went up to his dad and he just pushed the kid back, snapped his neck, and kept walking, and they were both dead.
Yeah,
And I was like, that's Vader. That's what it's supposed to be.
did not even break stride. And during
Yeah.
the lightsaber fight, which was interesting, was Vader actually when he lightsaber like during his lightsaber fights, he is actually very composed compared to Anakin. Like he's just kind of doing it with one hand and just like overpower. You know what I
Because
mean?
he kind of has to be now.
Because he's all busted and broken.
Yeah, and that was I never even thought of that, but yeah, the difference in fighting styles, but he's still really good.
Yeah, like
He just
Reva
has
is
to
like
use-
putting all of it into it, and he's
Yeah.
sitting there just like fencing her, like stop, dude, stop it, stop.
But then when he gets mad, you can see, and he uses again the Sith just raw power of just like he uses it. It's a lightsaber, but he will use it almost like a hammer,
Yeah,
and that's how you can tell when he's letting the anger take over. He's letting his frustration take over, just like when he was younger. And
and it's the same thing. Yeah, so Reva gets stabbed, and then they just all walk away and leave her. Which then I'm like, all right, she's still gonna be alive because
yeah, you know she's gonna live because she found the communicator.
yeah, and then she's just sitting there like, "Ugh." Okay. So and then how'd the ship escape? Well, they used that ship as a decoy and went off in another.
That
ship.
was so cool. As soon as he ripped into it, I'm like, they're not gonna be on the ship, but I'm curious. And then the background, you just whoop.
And I think Star Wars canon that the Force like that ability is kind of, how do I put it? It is like
talking
proximity. Like
Vader's?
I'm just saying in general, like the Force's proximity, like that ship is there, but by the time the ship was flying off, it was too far away. But then I kind of contradict myself because in the Force, whatever, the Rise of
Unleashed?
Skywalker, in that movie, they have a ship in the sky that, Rey is trying to grapple with, and it's a lot further away.
I think it also has to do with it is a little bit reactionary.
Yeah.
Like a spike in adrenaline. He walks in and they're getting away. I mean, because we make fun of him being half robot, but he is still a human. And so it's that initial reaction of like a bug bites you and you don't even think about it, you just swat it.
Fight or flight.
Exactly.
He just
He's
went
just
fight.
like, ship's going, and he got it. And then he went through and he's looking around, he's confused, and like you said, by that time the ship's just gone.
Yeah.
So it's not the same thing.
I also noticed within the show, I don't know if this was intentional, but Vader will also, like, as much as this was a show about Kenobi and a character study, this was also a character study of Vader, a side we have not seen.
Yeah, and I think they're intertwined. They have to be. You can't tell the story of Kenobi. He has a life before quote unquote Vader, but Anakin Skywalker was a big chunk of his life.
He trained him.
He trained him. I mean, he had just graduated to Jedi Knight himself when he got Anakin as a Padawan.
Yeah.
Like, literally, he was a Padawan. His trial was fighting Darth Maul, which sometimes you go through tests or sometimes you just do your missions and then that's how you get your Jedi Knighthood. But, like, literally, all right, cut my braid. He probably cut his Padawan braid off and freaking glued it onto Anakin as a kid. Like,
just got super glue. He's like, stand still, Annie.
But, like, he's young enough that when that all happens, Anakin's huge. It's like his son. You're not allowed to have attachment and all that other stuff, which the Jedi are all hypocrites because
they do have attachments. They just they hide it.
Well, one of the counselors, he was on the Jedi Council, had a family.
That is true.
I can't think of Conehead. I can't think of his name.
That man, he's always a carrot man to me. He reminds me of a carrot.
But yeah, he had a family and they're like, you make exception. Like, this is bull.
Well, you make exceptions because they're the ones in power.
Exactly. And it's kind of that study on, reading those Clone Wars books, I'm not going to say it formed my opinions, but it really did show a different side of how people viewed the Jedi. And like, I was younger when I read them and I was like, oh wow, this is mind-blowing to me that like they're not seen as the saviors of the universe everywhere. Like, a lot of people like them, they do good work, but it's like the boots on the ground do good work. Them as a whole, it's kind of a bloated, decaying organization.
And I always kind of thought
they lost sight of what they were supposed to do.
Yeah, because the people who establish things, obviously they're old and dead. And then, other people have different ideas. Good intention, but it's always built on, the wants of other people and stuff. And I just noticed my comment earlier about blue evil, red evil was more in reference to the color of lightsabers that are primarily on either side.
Oh, but that is not how I took it.
I just realized how you took it. I just put that together. That was not my intent. I was strictly, I put that together just now. How many, 30 to 40 minutes later, I'm like, wait, I did not mean that.
That is so much better because that you didn't even mean that. And I was like,
not mean
the universe just doesn't care. It's still going to make it a thing.
No, it's, I was going off the color because primarily all the Jedi, it's always blue or green.
So you're going, minority evil rule over the majority. But, all right, I'll stop.
Yeah.
But yes, so I think there is supposed to be significance to lightsaber colors. I'm going to go ahead and say BS.
From what I gather, significance is based off of, this was the older, before Disney took over, the color of your lightsaber was a different discipline of Jedi. Were you like a Jedi, like in the...
Could be Jedi Knight, Jedi Master. Knight. It was also, were you a Temple Guard? They got yellow.
Exactly.
So there was a lot of that, but then there was also... At some point, I don't know if it's canon or not, but it was supposed to reflect like a personality trait.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, that's why, because everybody was like, Rey had the yellow lightsaber at the end of whatever the latest movie was, Episode 9. Like, it's yellow. I'm like, is she gonna go back and guard the Jedi Temple?
Yeah.
I was like, because that's in my mind, that's what that means.
I think at that point they're just picking up the pieces.
Mace Windu had purple because they were racist. I will never not say that. It was supposed to be, they claimed, they're like, well, purple is power, and Mace Windu was the most quote-unquote powerful warrior ever. And I was like, okay. I'm trying to backtrack that one, guys. It was cool, don't get me wrong. I thought the purple lightsaber was awesome. But
now that you point that out, I could see it. I could see it 100%.
Yeah, it did not age well. I don't know if that was written to signal him out as an important character, but literally the only color up to that point had been blue, green, and red.
And now there's a purple.
And all of a sudden there's a purple. I'm like, if you guys are going to do that...
And it is given to the one character
the only black character in Star Wars until like the last couple years.
Yeah.
Literally.
I mean, that's George Lucas. Look at that. Look at that man, George Lucas, and tell me he's not racist. Tell me that with a straight face.
I can't.
Exactly.
I can't.
I can't.
I'm sorry. I'll never not hear that coming out of Ewan McGregor's mouth.
So, all right. So the final episode. We're getting to the final episode.
Bum, bum, bum.
Also, I will real quick. Do you think the Force has a level of intensity based on the number of Jedi alive?
Yes and no.
Like, I kind of feel like the Force is this life force that permeates all of existence. And if there is only a few Jedi pulling from it, then they can be a little more stronger, a little more intense, but not as controllable compared to when there's a whole Jedi Order and a whole Sith Order. If they're all pulling from the same life force, it's not as intense. Do you know what I'm saying? I always thought about that.
And no. This is where it gets confusing. You are right, because if the Force is all about balance, clearly if all of that life is lost, all of that Force use and whatnot is lost, it will manifest elsewhere. So in theory, one individual could come back super powerful to rebuild and spread it again.
Like Force energy, Force existence gets pent up, shall we say.
Yeah, well, that's kind of like how the Sith are able to, they're so strong and they can fight multiple Jedi, even multiple Jedi Masters, and win. It's because it's their, and it's concentrated in them. However,
there's never been as many Sith as they've been.
There used to be in the Old Republic.
In the Old Republic, it was all run by the Sith.
Yes. Then they both had armies, and then I don't actually know as much about all that. I never played Knights of the Old Republic yet.
Like the Sith, it was kind of the opposite balance of like in the original trilogy, while the first three, the Jedi were in power, but now before then it was the Sith that were in power, and that just shows the Force balancing itself out. There's going to be different eras of them killing each other off, pretty much.
But yeah, and then they went weird though in Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, because the midichlorian count in your blood signifies what your Force power can be, because they're like Anakin's was off the charts. I guess it's actually the same thing. It's probably like, we need to bring balance back to the world. We're going to put it in this kid, and then this kid's going to kill everybody.
And also that kid had no father. Very biblical in that sense.
Oh, yeah, that was not subtle at all.
Oh, that's George Lucas. What do you think? He's just like, I read the Bible once. That's Jesus. And then Jesus going to become Satan. And okay, we got this. I wrote Star Wars.
Yeah.
As much as I like Star Wars, I also hate Star Wars at the same time.
It also made me laugh too, because then his mom went off, got married, and had a kid the normal way, and I was like, kind of weird.
Yeah,
kind of weird.
Very biblical thing.
But yeah,
all right, last episode. We gotta get on this. Reva arrives on Yeah, I gotta get my food order. Reva arrives on Tatooine to find Luke, while Darth Vader and the Empire pursue the Path Network. Kenobi separates from the group to confront Vader alone on a nearby planet so that the Path can escape after realizing Vader is only after him. After an intense duel, Kenobi, who has regained his full connection to the Force, incapacitates Vader by damaging his helmet and breathing device. Coolest Star Wars scene I've probably ever seen in my life, honestly.
I still kind of like their Revenge of the Sith fight a little bit more. I thought it was pretty epic.
It was epic, but like that one, narrative-wise, in this
yes,
show,
I will give that to you. Yes,
I really loved it. Realizing Anakin has completely embraced his identity as Darth Vader, a saddened Kenobi leaves. Meanwhile, Reva arrives at Luke's home, but is confronted by Owen and Beru. Subduing them, she pursues Luke into the desert, but eventually returns him to his family after remembering Anakin's massacre on the Jedi Temple. Liberated from the dark side, Kenobi congratulates her for overcoming the trauma of her past. On Mustafar, a healed Vader abandons his search for Kenobi after his master, Emperor Palpatine, questions his motives and loyalty. Back on Alderaan, Leia has found new resolve in her duties as princess. Kenobi visits them and affirms that he'll help the Organas when in need.
Foreshadowing episode 4.
Says goodbye to Leia. Returning to Tatooine, he resolves his conflict with Owen by agreeing to let Luke have a normal life and greets the boy before venturing in the desert. Having found inner peace, he's finally able to converse with the Force ghost of Qui-Gon Jinn, which that is always super interesting that they can just talk to their old dead masters. So, like, if
you do have to have a very good affinity with the Force to do it. It's not like just anybody can do it.
Okay. I was always curious about that because I'm like, all right, so as long as you're a Force user, if you die, you just become Force Ghost?
No, only certain people can. So, like, all the ones who did Yoda, who was like technically led the Jedi to ruin, but super powerful with the Force, one of the wisest and most powerful with the Force, became the Jedi Ghost. Obi-Wan Kenobi, who now we see, I'm going to say he didn't regain his full connection to the Force. I think he actually gained more power with it because
Yeah.
he learned, so he had a deeper connection with it. I'm going that route. But he was able to come back as a Force Ghost. Technically, in the end of episode 6, after Vader dies, even though he was quote unquote evil, he found a little bit of redemption and he was super powerful with the Force. So he doesn't come back as Vader, he came back as Anakin Skywalker, the good version. So it's not like anybody can do it. I would argue that Qui-Gon he's iffy. He was a powerful Jedi.
It was nice to see Liam Neeson again.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised they brought him back for it. I was like, all right, he's getting old, but
knowing Disney and the technology they have, they could have just bought the right to use his likeness and like.
Oh yeah, they've done that already with a lot of stuff. But I thought it was cool that they brought him back and did that. Now Samuel L. Jackson's like, man, they're bringing everybody back. I'll come back. I'll learn how to use a lightsaber left-handed. I'm cool with that. I would love to see him come back as a wizened Mace Windu.
I literally saw it was a TikTok of someone dressed up as Palpatine. He was a really good impression, and there's someone dressed up as Mace Windu. He's like, oh, look over here, Mace Windu went out the window. And he was like, can I get a picture? He's like, picture? You did this to me. I want nothing to do with you.
That's awesome.
In Palpatine's voice, it was so good. So the only thing of real importance for that episode, instead of putting a bow around everything and giving closure to everyone, was the Vader and Obi-Wan fight. Oh my gosh.
That was a pretty cool fight.
Like, it's just Vader is pelting Kenobi with rocks to the point where he like opens up the earth and just throws all the rocks on him. And I'm like, he's under there. And he like made himself a little force bubble.
But he was almost lost it.
Almost.
Until he did the Force Blast and
and
came out like Kenobi Jesus.
Yeah, and then he hops out of there and he just starts pelting Vader with rocks. Like
everybody makes fun of like, all you can do is lift rocks, and then Kenobi's like, yeah, watch what I can do with that.
And like Vader's sitting there blocking only the ones hitting him. All the other ones are like,
did you notice that little subtle difference? When Vader did it initially and it wasn't as many rocks, it was like a smaller Force Blast with the rocks.
Yeah.
Kenobi wasn't getting hit. He was blocking them with the Force or hitting them with his lightsaber. He wasn't getting pelted. Reverse that. Vader wasn't blocking. Vader was getting his ass knocked with those. I was watching. I was like, that didn't happen earlier. Is he taking all these as body shots?
He's taking them as body shots.
And I was like, but I think that was the juxtaposition of like, just how they both view like, Vader's just an instrument. It's raw power. Like, yeah, he's taking it, but it's just, I love to me, again, I'm just a nerd over analyzing it, but these subtle differences in how they were doing it, I thought was so just awesome. It was so detailed, whether it was intentional or not, it just came together so perfectly. And then Obi-Wan, after pelting him with rocks, just straight punches him in the chest and breaks his breathing unit.
Exactly. And it wasn't even a lightsaber. He just punched it. And
with the hilt of the lightsaber. He was just like, pump.
And he's like, and then he just uppercuts him with the lightsaber and cuts half his mask. And this was the scene I was talking about. When Obi-Wan is talking, there's the blue glow from the lightsaber. When Anakin's talking, there is the red glow from that lightsaber. However, as the scene progresses and Anakin comes out just to say, I am not your failure. I chose this. I killed Anakin. You see the reflection of the blue in the one lens with a little bit of blue light, right? With the red. And I was watching that, Mike. Is this like, are they symbolizing this through like cinematography? Because like I'm impressed because I haven't, older movies do this a lot. And then as soon as we got over that point, and he's like, just like I'm going to destroy you or whatever, then the red overtook everything, and
that probably was. I definitely
like that was intentional. That was definitely intentional, and I just love that scene. How he was like, "I'm not your failure. I chose to do this." Because a part of him was like, understands that Kenobi has been beating himself up over this for so long. And after this, he's just like, if this is my last moment, he's like, I still got feelings for you. I still love you, bro, but
I'm gonna kill you.
yeah, I'm gonna kill you. And that pride and kind of anger and fury just over,
Do you also see the little bit of I don't want to say reenactment, but the same thing where Obi-Wan realized again that Anakin was truly dead. His brother, his Padawan, this kid that he had raised and trained is gone, and he didn't kill him again. I mean, obviously, Vader doesn't die there, but he
right.
just symbolically kicked his ass
And
and then left again.
and I think what is so interesting with that scene of him kicking his ass, like I think Obi-Wan could have always killed Vader every time.
Yeah,
I just think he never wanted to step over that point. And then when Luke arrives, like it's so clear during their little Jedi fight in episode 4, he looks over, he's like, "You got this now. I'm done. I'm checking out."
and that's the thing is I think he did that to inspire Luke and scare Vader a little bit because he's just like, hey, remember how I can like beat you up whenever I want? Click. Go ahead. Do it. See what happens.
Right.
Vader took the bait and it took like 6 years, but in the end.
And I think the another reason he did that was maybe Obi-Wan thought he's still in there somewhere. If I sacrifice myself, maybe we could get Anakin back. And then at the end when he saves Luke,
Mm-hmm.
and he's like, that was his redemption, him going after this thing that he's been trying to kill all this time, and he's like, there's no way I'm going to make Anakin like me, but his child, I think he will sacrifice for his child, but if I'm in the picture, that's never going to happen. And once again, nerds probably looking way too deep into it, but that's...
Yeah, but it also makes me laugh because he killed all those kids when he was younger, but then he wouldn't kill his full-grown adult son.
Well, also, Vader, I think the Vader is a very interesting character case study just because there's a lot more going on under there. Like, he spoke out to Palpatine, he's like, and then Palpatine's like, so Vader, are you telling me that you're kind of obsessed with this Jedi on the good side? Does that mean you want to go back to the light? And he's like, no. Because I think his pride has just like, I'm too far gone. I will never admit that I goofed up.
And it's also, well, he held on to the hope for so long that like Obi-Wan poisoned my wife against me. He's the reason my kids are dead, blah, blah, blah. And then he's like, his justification the whole time for him doing all this evil stuff was, I'm saving my wife. I'm saving this woman that I love. And it's okay. It's not okay, but this is my driving force. And then Obi-Wan's evil. Obi-Wan sacrifices himself, finds out that Obi-Wan saved his kids, all this other stuff. And I think you're right. That's that spark of him coming back and be like, crap. Just crap. My justification is gone. Like,
and that's probably at the end. And I like how we jumped on that Reva story. This is where it's just,
she doesn't kill Luke.
Her intention is to kill Luke to be like,
justice. I'm gonna take this away from Vader.
And she couldn't do it because she had it was a fine character arc, but at the end of the day, like, it's just kind of...
I just think the way they wrote it was poor, which is sad because I thought she was a cool character. I thought she did it very well. And for the first couple episodes, I was invested. And then by the end, I'm just like, eh.
Like, it's just, it kind of petered out just because of the dynamic between Obi-Wan and Vader. That's what people wanted. And then when you have this side, like, B plot next to this, you're just kind of,
I guess it sets it up for her to come back if they want to give her a redemption arc too. But
I'm wondering if they're
also
gonna pursue like to just expand on like just some adventures, like Obi-Wan just goes on some adventures, because I'd like to see that show.
I mean, I'd watch it
because Obi-Wan was great. I thought
he knows Yoda's still there. Maybe they'll bring Yoda back at some point.
Yeah, but all right, we completely kind of broke down that episode.
One last time.
I mean, we still got more. We still got a few more minutes. I just
I know,
want to be like, wow, we actually got through it.
We got through it, but I have one more gripe. Obi-Wan would not have made it to the Tatooine that fast.
Oh no, definitely
Light speed does not work like that.
No.
In the canon of the Star Wars universe,
it does not work like that.
It would have had to have literally been like a solar system over, or like a planet away, or something like that for it to work.
Right.
But it didn't. Now it's fast. That's how they travel the galaxy. But it's not that fast. Not fast enough for him to make it there in 2 minutes.
I think what they should have done. I mean, they were just like wrapping up. They're like, we got this one thread. We just
And
gotta wrap
again,
out.
storytelling wise, I knew they were gonna do it, but as soon as they had him jump, I'm like, man, you are just gonna break all the rules on this, aren't you?
I think what should have happened is like during like how do I put it? So at the beginning of the episode, have the B plot be very present that she's on Tatooine looking for him, and then Owen finds out she's looking for me, sends the distress call. Obi-Wan is like just escaping from Vader on the ship, and then he gets
Yeah.
the stress call. He's like, oh shoot, so I gotta wrap this up so I can go help them. And then like, it's kind of this little plot of her just trying to find out where they are, and it
I
takes a
think it
little
would have
bit of
been
time.
better if it would have ended on the scene with her over Luke, and then he comes back and it's just Owen and Beru standing over Luke's body. But then all of a sudden, that happens at nighttime, and then it's daytime when he gets there. So you're like, oh, time has passed. He thinks he's
Yeah.
too late again, but then realizes that she overcame the darkness, and now she's
Blah, 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 blah.
yeah, all that fun
Yeah,
stuff.
there was a little redemption arc for her, but it just now if it was the show was based on that and just that alone, that redemption, I think it would be fine. I think it's fine. It's just
They didn't.
comparing the little arc we had with Vader and a little arc we had with Obi-Wan. That's what we're there for. We don't care about Reva, whatever.
She was a good introduction to it, but I think they tried to, like you're saying, I think they carried it too far. Where they should have just been like, okay, it's done.
Yeah.
Have her show up at the very end, and then Obi-Wan's there, and he convinces her that she's not evil or something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
But
and then like in Rebels, you ever see in Star Wars Rebels when spoiler, but you already knew this when Obi-Wan finally kills Maul.
I never actually watched Rebels.
Rebels, it's good.
Again, it's like the final season of the Clone Wars. It's on my list. I just haven't got to it
With
yet.
Rebels, it's very slow to start, but once it picks up and it goes, and it's just like a little plucky team of just mercenaries flying around a little spaceship. It's yeah, two Jedi, yeah, and there's a lot of twists and turns that you wouldn't expect a kid show to do, and that's where that Inquisitor, he first appeared in that show, the Grand Inquisitor.
Well, I knew the Inquisitors appeared in that, and then they had them in the Fallen Order, and so I was like, oh, they're gonna make this a thing, and it's gonna have its own.
Yeah. It's good, but oh yeah, Obi-Wan, this is like much later. We're talking like Ben looking Obi-Wan, and Maul finally finds him, and like Darth Maul is just so, he's like, dude, you cut me in half, you like took everything from me, and he's just like, Kenobi. You ever hear that meme? It's the actor who does it, what's funny is the actor who is Darth Maul is the same actor, Sam Witwer, I think his name is, Star Killer from the games.
Oh,
They brought him back, and he is Darth Maul in the Clone Wars and in but yeah, what's so funny is Obi-Wan just so cleanly, just in 2 swipes, kills him. And then he's laying there, and like Obi-Wan catches him in his arms and just kneels down and just like, it's over, man. You don't have to be angry anymore. And then he's just like, I don't remember what he says. He does say something, but
I'm kind of curious to see what they do then, because in the Han Solo, the side movie, they brought Maul back.
I'm still mad about that because of just numbers. Like, that was a cool setup. I'm like, what's gonna happen next? And then there's just nothing, because like, oh, Han Solo didn't do so well, so we're just not gonna.
Solo didn't do well.
No.
I thought that was an awesome movie.
Oh yeah, no,
the chick who played Daenerys Targaryen, I don't think she was that good of an actress in it, but I don't really think she was that good in Game of Thrones either.
Yeah, no, it just it didn't do what their numbers were expecting, given the numbers of everything else. Yeah, so it kind of looks a little, the future looks a little bleak on continuing that story, which I thought would be cool. I mean, I'm not saying like, I don't know, Han Solo goes meets Darth Maul, but I mean, continue that story of him running a crime syndicate. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, well. Oh well.
What are you gonna do? All right, Star Wars episode has been wrapped up. I have food I gotta go get, and probably take a fat dump.
I am so tired. I feel drunk right now. We have been going nonstop for just everything for.
Yeah, you literally just pulled in like when I got here. I'm like, all right, let's go.
I was literally pulling up to my road, and I was like, yeah, I gotta go stop at the bank still. And then you texted me, and I was like, Not going to the bank right now.
Oh, you never went to the bank. Oh, shoot.
No, yeah, no. Well, so that's...
I'm your reason for your financial failure.
I'm going to run tonight. It's just the ATM. It's like 30 seconds from my house,
Oh, okay,
thankfully. But, yeah, no, I got to do some cleaning. I got to help finish packing. We got to do dinner. And it's been like this just nonstop all week.
But you're going camping. You're taking some time off, kind of like us just taking time off just to
we are gonna
unplug, unwind.
And I didn't even take that off for rest. We were helping our dad move, and that was a nightmare in and of itself.
Moving in general is a nightmare, but what I have gathered from you, this is like doubly so.
This is our gonna rest and reset, and we're gonna come back and. You know what I'm going to say? We're going to go hard. We're going to go hard on diet. We're going to go hard on exercise. We're going to, work on ourselves. I've been letting my bad attitude and my negativity affect me, and it's just cascading out elsewhere. And I'm trying real hard now to be like, I'm still going to gripe and complain. I need to vent. So don't expect me to come in sunshine and rainbows.
You're like, I'm not going to be happy all the time, but I'm not going to be as negative.
Yeah, well, that's exactly it. I'm like, you know what? If I want happiness, I got to put some out there into the world. So
and you also have to make it like poop.
I'm gonna force it.
I'm gonna force it.
I'm
gonna force happiness out my body, even if it kills me. All right, I'm in closing because I really have to take a shit. All right, see you guys later.
Bye.